Greetings, gardeners. It's another gorgeous day here in eastern Hawaii. They have flash flood warnings out, and it's coming this way, so I guess our beautiful weather will be passing. But it's been stunning, and as you could see, I have my sunglasses on, and the warm sun is pouring down on me this morning. She's beautiful. Right, so in the past, I've had folks say, you know, I see you plant all this stuff, but what happens later? And so I decided today we're going to do some follow-through on a few of the things that I've shown you over the past months that we were planting up. And so first thing I'd like to talk about is the Echinacea planting that we did in the Grumpy Gardener show. So this beauty right here is the one little Echinacea seedling that was put into a 2-gallon container a couple of months back anyway. I don't recall exactly, but it was done this summer. We did it on the medicine show, and you can see here I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 flowers open, another one coming to open over here, and so she's blooming really nicely. The plant is growing marvelously in this bucket. What I will end up with here is at the end of the season, when the seed ripens, I'll be able to get hundreds and hundreds of seeds to plant more Echinacea here that's Hawaiian grown. Also, I'll pull it out of this container and I'll probably split the root crown. Now it's a little early to be harvesting the roots for medicine, although when I split the root crown, we will be able to take the leaves and stems and dry them to use as Echinacea for the medicine cabinet, because otherwise they will just become compost. So if we harvest them while they're green, I'll be waiting for the seed to ripen before I do that, though. But very nice, huh? Quite productive. It worked out nicely. The plant seems to grow really well here. I haven't had any problems with it at all. Right here is a planting I did with just Italian parsley, and it's growing nicely. But this beauty right here, you remember when we planted 2 parsley plants with a turmeric? Look at that, huh? Is that gorgeous? The turmeric is almost 3 feet high now. I've been picking the parsley, so we've had harvests of parsley out of here. And looking in here, yep, I see turmeric in the pot, and so we're going to have a harvest. I'm going to wait for this to begin to die down, but we've been picking parsley already, and I have a turmeric crop all in one 2-gallon container sitting here on the nursery bench. I think that's pretty special. Who needs a garden? Right here, I have another one of those planters that were done, Italian parsley and turmeric. And again, I can see the turmeric roots down inside this pot. Matter of fact, I can feel them on the bottom with my hand. There's a bump down here. So I think the pot is filled with turmeric. This is going to be pretty cool when it goes dormant and I pull this out of the pot. One of the nice things about having your turmeric in a pot is that you won't lose it. I can lose it out in the garden sometimes. I don't know where it went when it goes down. In the pot, you know where it's at. It's also a lot easier to dig it out of this pot, and it's cleaner. No nematodes either. Right here, I have a little habanada plant. This is the sweet habanero, no heat. It's growing in a little 1-gallon bucket here. That bucket is more like a 3-quart. That's a really little tiny pot there. But you can see here, we're getting nice peppers on top of this plant. This seems to be a very, very well-adapted variety in this climate. In the garden, it's yielding nicely. Some of you may recall that on the Grumpy Gardener show, we were planting oregano one day in buckets like this. Now, this oregano grew out, became huge, and I've pruned it back just recently and harvested the leaves. What we have here is the regrowth, and it's doing just great. Oregano grows really well in containers. Right here, I've got a Middle Eastern cucumber, Amiga, growing in a container, probably about 15 gallons there. It's flowering nicely, growing pretty well. You'll see our trap over here. That's for catching the pickle worms, so we don't get them. Yep, looking good. So we got maybe 15 gallons of soil underneath the cucumber in a wire cage. Well, as you can see, it's an absolutely stunning morning here. Just gorgeous. Look out over the ocean there to the edge of the planet. I'm standing out here in the main vegetable garden at the moment. And if you recall previously, I had done a bit of a show where we planted sweet corn and had mown the weeds and the perennial peanuts underneath. On the far end of the patch over there, you'll see that the perennial peanuts are growing nicely, all yellow flowers and whatnot. Underneath on this end, I've got some cardboard put down because I didn't have perennial peanut on this end. So I've got green beans under the corn and cardboard on this end, and we got perennial peanuts over there on the other end. Things are looking good. Corn, as you can see, is coming to tassel. We'll have silk soon, so it's doing really good. Here was my experiment of planting marigold with pepper and tomato. It's worked out really well. The marigold seems to have driven out most of the nematodes in the area, so the plants are very healthy. As you can see, peppers here are loaded up. But the surprise was, you can see there's tomato sticking up here through this mass of marigold. The surprise was that tomato ordinarily in the open field here will get diseases. The foliage turns black, the vines die, and so on. It's hard to grow a tomato in this environment. Well, when the tomatoes were interplanted rambling through the marigolds, I'm not getting disease. And so I'm drawing a conclusion, and I don't have any fact to base this, but it sounds logical to me, that because the marigolds are driving the nematodes out of the area, it's making the tomatoes stronger because they're not being attacked by the burrowing rootworm. And apparently that makes them more resistant to attacks from diseases and fungus. Pretty interesting there, huh? Yeah. And again, there's one right over there, sticking up out of the marigolds, hanging on the sunflower stalk, and a few little ripe cherries there. I try to keep these picked so you don't see a lot of tomato. The wild chickens, and if they see tomatoes in the morning, they come through, they eat everything before I get to it. So, we have a strange side effect here. Right here is the Roussel fruiting hibiscus. You can see here, we got the little hibiscus flowers. So she's in the process of flowering up right now. We're also getting the Roussel. And so the part of this that we eat is the calyx from the flower. We don't use the seeds and we don't use the stem. There. This part we don't eat. That's where the seed would form. This part is what we do eat. And as you can see here from my fingers, from handling it, I've turned all red. It has a very strong red pigment in it. It also has a nice sour taste. And so this thing can be used like a cranberry. You can make drinks out of it. You can make tea out of it. You can even boil them down with some water and sugar and make cranberry sauce out of them. Pretty amazing stuff. Right down there on the ground, you can see a heap of little sweet potatoes that I've been curing out here. I dug up, started to take them out of the ground right there. As for the rest of the patch, you'll see everything is brown, dead, and dry like straw for the most part, except for the Roussel on one side and the pigeon on the other. I went through here recently with the 400,000 BTU weed flamer, and I went and I cooked all of the vines off the top because they were infested with a tortoise beetle. I mean infested. And so everything that was on this side where I didn't have other crops got roasted, and everything on the other side by the Roussel, I had to use spinosad, so I didn't burn up the Roussel plants. And hopefully we have the beetles and their breeding under control, because the vines were also absolutely filled with larvae. It was really messy. Never seen anything like it. A complete and total infestation. So, if you've been watching, you know that we put peanuts in here just a little while ago. And boy, they're looking good. Real pretty crop of peanuts. Strong and beautiful. Not too bad with the weeds either. I prepared this patch by flaming it. Looks like it worked out alright. So this spot right here had been popcorn. The popcorn was harvested. When we've popped half of it already, the weeds came up though, grass mostly, underneath the popcorn. So what I did was I covered it with weed block, similar to the area you see over there with the fruit trees. It took the weed block a few months. It completely killed off all the grass weeds that were in the area without having to till or dig or anything. As you can see here, there was a little of the Godzilla squash that was under the weed block, but some of it was also outside the weed block. The squash survived. The squash is still here and now it's greening up. When I first took the cover off, it looked pretty weak, but leaves are starting to unfurl. It's turning green. I mean, phew, what a squash, huh? What a squash. And right over here, I had a patch that was squash, and it also came up solid in grassy weeds. And so I have covered that patch up. So we're doing exactly the same thing here. And so the grass is going to die under there. When I pull that off, there'll still be living Godzilla squash. And we'll put another crop in its place. You can see just beyond it over there that we have squash that was covered earlier and has now bounded back with no weeds in it. Right here you can see pigeon pea plants. These are the pigeon pea plants that I cut back hard a while ago and used them over here as stick mulch. As you can see, the Godzilla squash popped back through them just fine, is growing nicely. There are some weeds yet, but not so many. It was thick and very messy. Now it's mostly squash, and there's a bit of dinosaur kale right there. And it was, of course, jutting above the weeds. So it's a little messy, but it's pretty good. We're just throwing pigeon peas all over the place. Right over here, you can see where I just threw more pigeon peas as a stick mulch. So, there's the recap. Aloha. Y'all have a wonderful day. Thanks for watching.